own means of production. We need to change our entertainment and our sports. We need to change our health and our technology. Ultimately, we need to change our spirituality. And I think at an esoteric level, every leader, every father must have the Moses in them, and they must have the lamb in them. That's a man of steel and velvet, where order and grace, kiss each other constantly. You can't just be known as a hard father, and tolerate nonsense. No, when the toys are broken, the father must kneel down and go and repair the broken toys. And when big things must happen, when there's a noise outside, a father must take his stick and walk outside and protect. And then we ask ourselves the basic questions. What are they bringing with them when they are colonizing Africa? So they colonize you, and let me say this one, it will be painful, but I'll say it. Are you aware that actually the African liberated the white man?
No.
I'll explain.
Explain, please.
Because it's us, Africans, who bring independence.
In what way?
We fight for it. Like in South Africa, like in Zimbabwe, like in Namibia. We fight for it.
Welcome to Something Nice with Dinano. We are back with a channel favorite, Ubaba Joshua Mara-Rah Maponga. Welcome, Baba Maponga.
Thank you. How has been going so far?
It's going well. It's been a very good year for the channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken to you. From the inception, you are responsible for the growth that we have seen on the channel. I'll also take some credit because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
The interview we had with you 3 years ago, 2021, I think it was just after lockdown.
COVID days.
Yes. It's now at 1.1 million views. It's the biggest viewership for a Joshua Maponga something on YouTube. Thank you.
Wow.
Now I'm going to sound like Snoop Dogg. I want to also thank myself. But most importantly, you
give yourself some flowers
at home who has been supporting the channel. I posted something yesterday saying we are hosting Ubaba Maponga again. Someone said they've been listening on one of the audio channels. A lot of people have been commenting. And common amongst the comments are questions about this book. We spoke off air. We have agreed that we will do something about the book. I will support Farmers of Thought. And by doing so, we will get people to win the books on the channel.
Thank you.
How have you been? Before my intros are somehow very long, but I am going to ask us to be serious about this question. I once called a friend, speaking is closer, my brother Unjan. His response is, are you really interested in knowing? Or we are buza nje kuba uqhela ubuza? Do you ask just because you are used to asking? Let me ask in a serious way. Unjani Babu Maponga?
I am not okay. I'm not okay as an old man looking into the health sector, looking into the education sector, looking into the political sector, cultural, technological space, and political space. And I feel our people are on the bus. They don't know who is driving the bus. Ultimately, we may have an idea of who is sitting on the steering, but as to who is driving the bus, where is this bus taking us to? Are the people in the bus in agreement that this is where we want to go, whether politically or health-wise or education or socially or culturally, or the global conversation that they're talking about, that this is where Africa needs to be in the global village, and I've asked the question, who will be the king in that village? Who will be the policeman in that village? What religion will be in that village? How are we going to bear our children in that village? What will be our women be in that village? What will be the men be? But when I look at America and I look at Europe, at their idea of what a village looks like, where you're no longer him or you're she, you're no longer it or that, you are no longer. And I'm wondering, does this all-inclusive Africa village, global village, has to do with extinguishing the African spirit? Because ultimately the global village has very little of the African in it. It's about the global culture that is being built. And there's nothing called global culture. Let's be clear. It's American culture. It's European culture. And while we are being dragged here on a leash to join this global village, So you said, how am I? I'm not okay. Because I see our politics, our health, our education, our business, our entertainment, our spirituality, our agriculture, all of it slowly being eaten away into this plastic, synthetic, genetically modified culture, genetically modified religion, genetically modified spirituality, genetically modified education, genetically modified governance. And I wonder, as I sit here in my mature mind, I'm no longer a young man, in my mature mind, and you ask me, how am I? I'm not fine. Because I don't think we have the right drivers for the bus. I don't think we're even on the right bus. And I'm not sure that the destination is where I want to leave my children to go to.
I know you are a philosopher. And sometimes one needs to be awake when you speak. You say you are not well because of all these things you are mentioning. But somehow I feel like you are not well because Africa is not well. We are where we are. We are not well. As a people, we are not well. As the land, we are not well. In every aspect you may think of. You've been traveling around the continent, around the land. You've been meeting with different people from different spaces, different tribes, different understandings of who we are. What conversations are you having? How do we get to realize this Africa that will make you be well?
To be very precise, in my unwellness, there is a glimpse of light that gives me some excitement. It is this great awakening that is happening around the continent. You don't need to go very far. Go on any social media platform and just scroll 3 times, if not twice. The third article you're going to be meeting is something to say about what Africans are, what we must be doing, and etc. And it's like a nation that has been sleeping for almost 400 years. And in a typical example where you are waking up from your sleep, and so especially if someone shakes you out of your sleep, in a nice deep sleep, and someone comes, hey, Daddy, wake up. No, first thing is that your ears have heard what has been spoken. So first thing, you're going to open up your eyes. But when you open up your eyes, your mind is not where your eyes and body are, because it was somewhere very far. So in every immediate wake up, there is this disillusionment of some sort, which in some certain cases, it takes seconds to move from where the mind had taken you to and your sleep had taken you to where you are. And when you finally arrive here, you quickly want to scan the place, and your eyes will assist you to see, where am I and what is happening? Is there danger and what? So in as much as they're asking you, the other issues of priority that are already running through your mind. When your eyes have confirmed you're safe, there's no gun, then you look at the person and the similar process is happening to Africa. As we waking up from this slumber to realize our environment, to size up our friends. Am I still in the same bed? Is my wife here? Are the children here? Is the house not on fire? What's the emergency all about? And this awakening warms my heart, because for the first time, we are starting to win off the issues of the night and coming into the day. And the other day I put a poster out and someone says, I don't blame the Africans, Bishop, because you call me Bishop, by the way. Don't blame the Africans, Bishop. Blame it on COVID, the vaccination, and that maybe they have metals that have been pushed into our system. Some of it is actually causing a slight slumber, and particularly to our educated community, which gets so knowledgeable about them and so uneducated about themselves and where they are coming from. And then you find that the whole academic space is built to protect the very colonial system that has oppressed us this long. And I think we are in a very exciting moment of Africans' history where, as a generation, we will witness in our generation a start off of a meaningful transformation towards an Afro-centered kind of understanding. And I think for today, if you tap on me nicely, we may just be able to assist others like ourselves. You brought up an Adventist. I'm brought up an Adventist. Third generation Adventist, so to speak. Grandfather, father, uncles.
I'm fourth.
Lucky you. And
let me brag a bit. My great-grandfather, Richard Moko, is the first ordained Adventist pastor in Africa. Richard Moko. But somehow, somewhere else, he might be known as Muku. There are so many things you say, and I want to give you time to speak. You say we grew up Adventist, third generation, fourth generation. But we are waking up from our slumber. We are seeing the issues within Adventism. We are seeing the issues within a Western education system. We are seeing issues within Western democratic processes. We are seeing issues in a lot of things. There's a movement of decolonialism. I don't know what it means. I don't know if you understand, but somehow I've heard that you happen to be part of that system that's trying to break down these walls that impede us from seeing greater things that we can achieve as African people. I don't know. We are in a constant transition. We are waking up.
Let me make it simpler for you, without being laborious in words. This is your house. And whatever happens in this house, someone must knock at your door.
Yes.
You give them access. You write the rules in this house. What time does the gate close? Madam helps you.
Yeah.
To put that order into your estate. So there's order. And what we are asking for as Africans is that the narrative, I gave you the bus illustration, the narrative that we are talking about as Africans, the question is, are we accountable? Are we responsible? Are we in charge not only of our children, our husbands, our wives, our land, our education, our entertainment, our commerce and business, our health? Are these elements that we speak about extensively, which affect our very livelihood, are they within our own means of power? Do we have control? Are we in charge? Right now, can you say as a father that you are in charge of the curriculum that your daughter is studying at school?
I am not.
And I'm hearing the other day, the stuff they are teaching them there at school. You take a whole academic institution to teach my child sex, to teach them sex and how to accommodate gays and lesbians. You are not it, you are them, you are what, you're that. When Chinese people are teaching their children how to make these things, you are busy teaching our children sex. What career are you building on? Sex workers? So, something small and fundamental as education, if you as a parent is not involved directly in determining the quality of education that is going to, and yet you are paying for it. You have to pay for that. You have no power over what goes on your screen, on your TV screen, but you must pay DSTV. You have no power over what goes in your body, yet you must pay your medical aid. You have no power over what goes on in your policies of land and etc., yet you are paying for politics and taxes. And when you look at an African being in the midst of a conversation and he is a footnote on the paper where he's supposed to be the subject, he appears somewhere at the bottom there. Somewhere at the bottom there as a means of reference. Oh, by the way, we're in Africa, and what are these Africans? And when you hear even our politicians talking about Africans, they're not human beings. They're the indigent, the poorest of the poor, the disadvantaged. And you listen to this and says, how do you then ask us as the poorest of the poor, and yet power relies with us? You want us to vote for you, but immediately you have a time to write a speech and speak about Africa. You're not addressing us as the prime citizens of your existence as a leader.
You first have to address the market or appease
the market is the poorest of the poor. Listen, Google, put a clip, 6, 7, 10 people, politicians talking, and all of them you hear them mentioning the indigent, the unbankable, the poorest of the poor. These are the Africans. And yet these are the stakeholders, the owners of the very narrative that you're talking about. So even our politics does not respect these people. They only come for votes.
I like the analogy of being in the state of waking up. I think you are saying it has stages. Your eyes see, your ears hear, your mind is trying to process because it's coming from another space. As a people, as a person, I understand. As a people, how do we conscientize each other to say, guys, we are now becoming aware. We are awake, we are woke, which is a term they don't want.
On the onset, it must be mentioned that the condition of waking up is business. It distorts and destabilizes number of institutional already gathered information, because things have been running like this, and someone always benefits from your foolishness. Someone will always be cashing in on your sleeping habits. Someone is making money out of your spaces of not knowing. I mean, for example, you wake up in the morning and you discover you are a prince, you are royalty, and you've been paying taxes to someone. And for the first time when that knowledge of who you are strikes you, how many other businesses are going to be destabilized within the present space which has been taking advantage of you? And I think the colonial system is a bit agitated, and through religion, business, and political systems, they're trying by all means to make sure that this group of black people don't wake up as fast before they smuggle as much as they want to their own corner. And truly so, because life is about making profit. So it should be understood that as Malcolm X and Martin Luther put it, that freedom will never be donated by those who are oppressing you. The one who is oppressed needs to take it, if not possible, take it by force. Because it's comfortable to have a slave and have a servant and have people that you can just click your finger and they run. And one morning you wake up and your slave says, "Oh, sorry, sir. Actually, you are the slave. I'm not the slave." Yes, so it is economically challenging to see the African wake up. It will cost the colonial system quite some money. It will cost our academic institutions quite some money. It will cost our pharmaceutical organization. And COVID did us the best of all favors, when all of a sudden the African who was supposed to collapse and die, and there we are. Here we are, healthy and well. And how do you think the pharmaceutical company that had calculated a 3-5 billion profit on selling these vaccines, and they discover Africans don't need as much of them
For some reason, I'm not a scientist. I've been fighting with people on these platforms on the issue of COVID. Fought with a doctor from my church from back home. But before we did the interview, you asked for some time to be in the sun. If you remember, before COVID started, they had said Africa would be the hardest hit. Somehow, Africa was the least hit by this thing. Is it the sun? Is it because we spend a lot of our time out there? This is not a structured conversation. It's going to be all over the place.
Our melanated skin and the abundance of vitamin D and the influenza that they were talking about, it can be healed and cured within those elements of the sun, an alkaline diet, and, the healthful living of the Africans. And I should say we were fortunate, if not lucky, if not blessed, to have been in a place where there's the most sun. And I think they mistimed this thing. If Africa was this frozen state, maybe they would have hit us. But I think the sun, Ra Masedi, worked in our favor, and it must have been a shock to their own boots to think the people who were going to die actually survived more.
You talk about Malcolm X. You talk about luminaries, let me call them that were not too far from where we are, but they have been talking. There were guys like Gavi. There were guys like Fanon. There are people like Ngugi. There are people like Maponga. There are people like Lumumba, the one that they eliminated. There's a Lumumba right now in Kenya. He's speaking. There's a Malema. There's a Zuma. We have been talking Baba Maponga, but we somehow find ourselves in the same type of situation. You know what frustrates me as a parent is thinking that whatever struggles I might have gone through, my child will go through. And it somehow keeps me awake at night.
I'll make it simpler for you, Chana. I'll call him Chana just for the purpose of the conversation. We have an option, 2 options only, not more than that. I'm giving you 2 options only. Option 1, it is the luminaries' direction. We, as luminaries, are servants of peace. We bring words, mapungo, mazwi. We speak to consciousness, common sense, and reason. But this is not a permanent state of the African child. The second level, when words are not heard, 90 years for South Africa to be liberated, 40, 50 years, 60 years for Namibia to be liberated, 20 years for Zimbabwe to be liberated. Talking. Ultimately, when you look at what language does the colonial system understand, do they understand words or do they understand violence? The latter comes with collateral, both to our people and to the enemy that is at hand. And for some of us, that's what's holding us back. Because I know right now, should I begin a movement and say, let us gather African youth, let's meet in Burkina Faso, let's meet in Mali, let's meet in Mozambique.
Can we not meet in South Africa?
Let's meet in Congo. You're not ready in South Africa. Let's meet in Congo and silence the war that is in Congo. We will have young people there. We will lose some of them. But the battles can start before. So if words, my mother had a proverb, by the way, when I was young, says, "Mtanam, if you can't hear through your ears."
Say it in the language that you...
Kana usingawi nejeve, uchawa neganda. If you can't hear what I'm saying to you through your ears, then you might have to use another form of ears, which is your skin. She's telling you, I'm going to beat you up.
See, this is why I like these African proverbs, sayings. They go beyond.
And if the white man cannot hear that the black man is not happy, and you cannot hear that we want clean water, you can't hear that. And 60% of South African water is in white farmers. We want land. You can't hear that. We want true freedom. You can't hear that. We want to own the banks. You can't hear that. We want to own insurance companies. You can't hear that. We want to own universities. You can't hear that. then what happens is that what one generation fails to hear through their ears, the next generation will hear through their skin. And white people will be foolish to leave their children and grandchildren with these issues unresolved. You can hold on to those farms, enjoy it. But I can tell you, Dali, I can tell you, one generation, these children of yours, will wake up, who will ask, who is Mandela? Who is O.R. Tambo? Who is Gavin Beck? And they don't know them. And their question is simple, where is our land? They will butcher these white kids like sardines. And it will happen because one generation did not hear the conversation of the luminaries who are saying, hey, Buffett,
Point us to the African approach when it comes to our issues, our problems, and just how we should navigate through life. There's a very nice illustration that you like with a stick. You don't have that stick, you've got a bigger stick. I don't know if this one
I can still use
goes beyond that one.
Yes.
Okay, I think it will be visible in that wide camera.
I can still use this one.
Okay.
I can still use this one. For the purposes of the conversation, I'll make this one, the white part.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make this one 2, the brown part. I'll make this one 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll make this one 4,
Okay.
the silver part at the
Okay.
end. So let's call this the east.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call this the south.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call this the north. And let's call this the west.
Okay.
So the west,
South, northwest.
so the west is holding us by our heads in terms of the quality of our thinking.
So fitting, the color.
And white. The north, with their industrialization and legacies of the historicity of colonization. And a beautiful part here, it is the south, which is the great woman, the birth of all mankind. And this is the east with their technology, the silver part. So we can still work around this.
It does look
And I think so. China is producing the machinery, the cars, the cell phones, and
all the things we aspire
all the
to,
glut-
materials.
Yes. And Africa is the great mother, the mother of mankind, our Kebalan, in her fullness, at the center of it, and the greatest part, and the historical part of ourselves, then the north, and then the west. Now, when you process this, I call this a benchmarking tool, because it's telling you to think globally and act locally. You need to understand how are they thinking in the west, how are they thinking in the north, how are we thinking in the south, how are they thinking in the east. Who is the God in the east? Who is the God in the south? Who is the God in the north? Who is the God in the west? What are their medicines? What are their medicines? What are their medicines? Who owns land in the east? Who owns land in Africa? Who owns land in the north? Who owns land in the west? What are they educating their children with? What are they? So you could actually take any subject and sit in a park by yourself and process 1,000 thoughts. Pick a subject. Could be fashion.
Religion.
Could be weddings. Could be religion.
I love religion. Our audience loves religion.
Could be health and technology. Could be anything. And then before you even go very far and you get yourself... And many of the young people who watch me, and I don't think they've been able to upgrade their software to think with me. Before you even start asking and arguing about, as Africans, think globally. What are they doing in the East? What are we doing in the South? What are they doing in the North? What are they doing in the... What is their democratic system? Governance. Agriculture. Education.
Are you
Health
saying
and
this is
technology.
why we keep trying to wake up and be, because we are not being who we are?
The very system that we are dealing with, which was built to stay, already comes with those structures. And I wish people can go to my next book that I've actually done, entitled African Questions and African Solutions.
Okay, we only have 2 here so far.
I have the third one that is now available, called African Questions and African Solutions. And in that volume now, I begin to work at the 7 pillars of the structure of colonization and how the African can now work around that So that we need to understand the system. We need to understand the monster. And then we see how best can we navigate ourselves to restructuring it or creating parallel systems that can then create an African sustainable Africa that we want. How is it governed? How is it educated? How is it entertained? How does it treat itself?
Give us some bites, some nuggets from questions and answers.
For African questions and African solutions. We pick up those 7 pillars and look at the colonial system coming to colonize the African people. And then we ask ourselves the basic questions. What are they bringing with them when they are colonizing Africa? So they colonize you, and let me say this one, it will be painful, but I'll say it. Are you aware that actually the African liberated the white man?
No.
I'll explain, please. Because it's us, Africans, who bring independence.
In what way?
We fight for it. Like in South Africa, like in Zimbabwe, like in Namibia. We fight for it. And after we fight for it, we liberate even the white man from his own bigotry. He was not able to live freely in a country where he was in power until the African fights him on his system and liberate him from his own mindset. The South Africans right now, the white South Africans who are here, are even worried. Why did we fight so much when what all black people wanted was just Zama and Spazas. We did not need to go through that 90-year battle because Africans did not want more. But the question is, did the African not want more because he had more, or the African knew that he could have much more, but he only asked for less?
That's a question.
So here we are, saying we are free and we are independent in South Africa, but we know the monster, the elephant in the room. DA cannot talk about that. ANC cannot talk about that. PA cannot talk about that. Action SA cannot talk about that.
Maponga and Something Nice with Dinano are here to talk about it. Let's talk.
That is land. That is land.
You make so many connections to how the land gives us a lot. You've said somewhere that it is very important for you to sometimes just take off your shoes. Go there.
Mamela Mchana, Minister of Agriculture is land. Minister of Housing is land. Minister of Water is land. Minister of Tourism is land. Minister of Forestation is land. Minister of Mining is land. Minister of Power and Energy is land. Now tell me, which ministry have I left out? Minister of Sports and Entertainment is land. We're going to put the stadiums in the sky. So you cannot even begin to talk about a government that does not have land. Because without land, go home. Because whoever owns the land owns the politics.
We are talking, Baba Mapong. There were ones before us who were talking. Now I'm getting tired of talking. I'm on a podcast. We talk because we're trying to bring these solutions. Can we move past talking? What are some of the solutions you speak to in African questions and solutions? I don't know. Maybe I could continue to say for true liberation of the African.
You are a young man. Then I will be kind with you. You are a fine young man who has been kind to me. So I will not be cruel in my dealing with you. I'll be polite. There are 2 types of wars every one of us, particularly those who have been exposed to military training, must go through. The first battle is the battle of the generals, battle of the colonels and the lieutenants, where we wake up every morning and we go to a room with sticks underneath our armpits. And that battle is fought on the maps, on the ground. We all come there. We put our artilleries and soldiers in trophies or small little toys. And we push
strategize.
Push those things, and we think, how best are we going to Sometimes it takes 1 year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 5 years.
Strategy and tactics.
Thinking and looking at the battleground. Where are the rivers? Where does the wind blow from? Where are the resources? Where is water? If this is blocked, then how do we work? If this, and we think through the battle. By the time you see a general walking out from that room with a date when the first strike will now happen, where the common soldier is told, pick up your guns, shoot. You don't ask what, because we have thought about it.
You know the work has been put in.
We will be foolish as your leaders if we should become impetuous and impatient to say, let's go fight the white man. No, Dali. 60% of your water right now is sitting on white farmers. If you should decide to fight the white man and he drops of cyanide in your very taps of water, how many South Africans are going to die in this battle? Do we even have a contingency?
We don't even control the food, logistics.
You talk about the farms. What if they poison those farms? What are they going to have? Another 150 years of resuscitating the ground. So the thinking for me is important. Your health systems, you're all depending on pharmaceuticals and tablets, which they're giving you to drink for crying out loud. And so when we talk about talking is not just a cosmetic thing. We hope that we can begin to develop African leadership that can eat into the system, create parallel systems of agriculture, indigenous agriculture and food, indigenous healing methods. Start going back to your rural homes, dig up your own bowls, feed your own water. And unless we think through the system, I'll be stupid as a leader amongst your generation to tell the young people, let's go and fight. And I know I'm leading all of you to a death ward. You are not ready.
Do we have such leaders? You keep talking about leadership. Do we have such leaders that we can trust to take us through this strategy and tactics of war?
We lost we had leaders, but we lost leadership, particularly in South Africa in 1994. Because I think in 1994, the white man was ready to be pushed out of power, and they did not have enough time to strategize and clean up. We lost the plot. We went into lots of talks, went into lots of poems, went into lots of conversations,
songs, South Africa,
oh, we love you. And now the enemy that we had 20 years ago has metamorphosed.
Yeah. Metamorphosis has changed.
Is metamorphosis
developed
into another monster. And for your own information, Afrikaner and white people train their children how to use guns every weekend. All these farms in Rustenburg,
Landers,
Potchefstroom and what. And Orania is a culmination space that tells us that we can do what we want in your country. And if Orania is allowed in South Africa, then why are you stopping KwaZulu-Natal?
It's become a bargaining tool for the Freedom Front Plus, by the way, in their negotiations on the
So if Chief and the King Misuzulu says, I want KwaZulu-Natal as another Orania, do you have a problem as South Africans? Because when a white man does it, it's self-determination. When a Zulu man does it, it's tribalism.
If it's white, it's right.
If it's white, it's self-determination. It's preservation of the Afrikaner culture, which is being threatened in South Africa. So apparently the Afrikaners are the only ones who have a right of preserving. If Ciskei,
where I'm from,
they say we also are tired of this Urania thing, we also want our Cis Urania in Ciskei. And KwaZulu says we want ours. Mujaji says I want mine. Venda says I want mine. And Putatswana says I want. So maybe the tribal homesteads, the homelands that we destroyed during 1994, maybe Orania has just come back to tell us that it was not such a bad idea at all. Then Venda, collect your resources there, develop yourself as much. And this is what the educated South African does not want to talk about. You cannot be dealing with white people with silver and cotton gloves and then they deal with each other with arrogance.
How do you organize ourselves? Now we're going back to history because I think it's important that if we want to move forward, let's understand where we come from. How did we organize ourselves as Intlanga? I don't want to say tribes. Izizwe. Clans back in the day. Did we separate? Would Batsonga, would Amaxhosa, would Amazulu be in their own enclaves and not want to be part of
We
other
needed
clans?
to appreciate, number one, that we throw away all the borders. Just firstly, before we even go into that thing, we just need to pull out that. And I put a status this morning that I said, how can 10, 15 men in the Berlin conference, the Congo conference, make a decision which 54 presidents and 1.2 billion people cannot reverse? No, 10 people with Leopold as the chairman. They sit around and they make a ruling of how Africa will be divided. And right now we have 54 presidents. They've never met.
Very evil man, but somehow no one says a lot about Leopold, but we always hear about Hitler. Leopold, who massacred people in the DRC, cut off their hands.
Judge Hlophe said something that was very interesting. Judge Hlophe, what makes the Jews more resilient than Africans is that the Jews every day, 3 times a day,
I saw that.
like medication.
They remind their kids.
Like medication, umbulawa inhloko kumbe flu, uphuze ekuseni, uphuze emini, uphuze ntambama.
Sometimes 2 times.
Sometimes even before you go to sleep, they will always remind themselves who are their enemies.
And their children.
And then only don't just talk about their enemies. They also talk about how their enemies must pay. To date, Germany owes
Namibia.
No, not Namibia, owes Israel.
Oh, yes.
They
Okay.
owe them money. They are paying those billions of dollars.
They also owe Namibia.
They've not even started talking about it. Germany is actually running around that. They owe Zimbabwe also. They killed 18 of our kings that right now are being used as trophies in British museums.
England owes us. Oh, Inza.
So when you look at our history, if our history does not tell our story, if our history is not our history, it is his
Someone's
story,
history. His story.
then constantly we're going to be remaining thinking that these people are our friends. When DA and the ANC come together, South Africans feel like, no, it's progress. It's a better thing for us to do. But hey, man, just look at your enemy. They've changed clothes, but they're still the same.
I always ask, can we have unity without equality?
There is no unity without sovereignty. There's no unity without respect. True unity and independence. Independence must not be dependence. Independence must be sovereignty, where each one of us. I'm coming back to your question, where you're asking, how did we organize ourselves?
Yes.
We organized ourselves because within the Xhosa, bo Sahile, bo Khakhabe,
Oh, Inza.
bo Hintsa, they knew that amongst them,
Oh, Sandy.
bakhona oJantshi, bakhona o Mabele, bakhona o Dlamini, bakhona obani, and each one of these houses were linked up to the great royal house. You come to the Zulu, which became the great empire that Shaka built, but within the Zulu, uPhungane ukhona, uShezi ukhona, uMyeni ukhona, uNyambose ukhona, and they made up this royal house. And even in the royal sitting itself, you find that each one of those clans is actually represented. Same thing to the Shona and the Karanga tribes. The Kalangas, you will actually have the royal house, but that is attached. But in many cases, like in the ancient Karanga tribes, Vushemadzoro, meaning that royalty we share. So in this season, it is the Shumbas running. In another season, it is the Mukanyas running. In another season, it is the Shou running. In another season, then here and there you find greediness, where one family says, no, we cannot share power. Then wars would break out on that. So we had a consultative, a communal consultative model, where the entire community sat at Likhotla. And each one of us, I love the Uganda model, by the way, where you have the 12, 16 clans, and each one of them is linked to the Uganda Waganda kingdom. Others, their job is simply to make the cloth for the royal house. Others are responsible for the food of the king. They are farmers. Others are responsible for the cattle and the skins for the king. Others are responsible for the lands of the king. So that you don't have a useless tribe within the kingdom. Each one of them. And there's such skills development within those clan settings have to do with developing the very skill. So you find that if you want the best headsmen, if you want the best tailors, if you want the best medicine people, if you want the best childbirth, whatever.
Yeah.
So each clan develops itself and its children. So you cannot wake up in the morning and say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
You know what your trade or your
already
specialty
have
is.
purpose. Your purpose is written in your DNA of your history. Understand your history, and you don't have to look for a profession. You already, me for example, I'm a Karanga. When we do our totems, ndi mwana mkanya, wana shoko, wana fuzi jena, chigara mboko, gara mashamba huda, chira na wana wanji, makumbe mwana musende we shanu, ndi mwana matanga kugara, wakaramba ugeza, wana mshambane gore, wakarimi mwana uchemane we, wacheri we, mangura, na mapfuli bayo. Now there you go.
What does it say?
Miners of iron ore and those that forge it into instruments. Already in my tribe, I did not understand why I have this interest of always beating up things and fixing, but it flows in my system. You share the totem with the kings themselves. We are the kings of the great Monumtaba Empire. So, and knowing yourself, therefore, is not counting your fingers. It's learning the tombstones of your grandfathers and your ancestors and know what skills were embedded in them. Those very same skills flow in your bloodlines.
So we come together in these lichutlas. I don't know if we still have think tanks. We come together in these lichutlas. We identify and we know our strengths, and we go out together with our strengths, with our gifts, to build towards a common cause.
The nation. That's the nation building. Even in some certain spaces, you find that there are some tribes that produce warriors. Just these are the swordsmen who it's inbuilt. Then you find others that were actually the voodoo and magicians.
All this cooking stuff.
Cooking things, and you call these people, they'll build your resilience, your medicines, and etc. Then you find another one, they're just the poets. The poets who, have you heard some of those Zulus and Ndebeles people singing those things, even the Xhosa people? Is that normal? That you could be talking for the
And they don't write it, ne?
It
comes there.
And it's in your bloodline. It's in your bloodline. And you look at these superb skills. I think R&B and rap music found itself late.
In my former life, I was a rapper. Yeah. But I want to go to this thing of cooking thing. You know, I always go back to where we come from as Adventists. Some of us grew up not even believing those things. Well, there are mayas, we know.
But
But I want to go to a recent incident that happened to me. Yeah, at FNB. I was working there last year, November 4th. My car got jammed. But in the police statement, I was so sure that I saw a white Corolla. I wrote it down. Luckily for me, I managed to find footage because I was parked to one of these Vumatel cameras.
Someone knocked your car?
No. They jammed the car and they got access with their remote mechanism. So they stole stuff. Yeah. But I written in my affidavit that I saw a white Corolla. I viewed the footage. There was no white Corolla there. There was a car, a silver Polo that looks like mine. And I'm trying to think, man, no, man. Could these guys have used Umuti? Is it just a matter of my mind playing tricks of me? I'm just saying it in passing. I know some of us grew up not even believing in these things. I always want to go back when I have a conversation with you. I always want to go back to matters of religion, spirituality, consciousness. Off air, I was telling you about a song that I listened to by Uthandiswa Mazwai, Iti Abenguni. the Nguni people, for those who don't understand. It makes reference to ancestors. She says, "Andihambi ndedwa. I am not alone. Ndihamba noomakhulu bam. I am with my grandmothers. No khokho bam, my great grandparents. There's nothing you can do to me. Try me." And then it goes on. I was saying to you, I don't believe in walking with ancestors and all these things. But somehow the song evokes something in me. It speaks to my
Let's
spirit.
go together.
And I feel guilty
I've
about
done
it.
this 1,000 times. I'll never get tired of doing it. Show me your hands, my Mshan. Show me your hands. So you need 4 grandparents on your left-hand side. Grandparents that produce
That was the intro to our first video, by the
your
way.
mother,
Yeah.
that produce your father.
Okay.
Dad, mom.
As you're speaking, I'm trying to think how far back I go. I don't know
These
that.
2 come together.
Mm-hmm.
There is the door. There's the first diamond sign you find on our traditional heads.
Door to what?
To life. And mothers are the door to our lives.
And this is how we make it through this earth. We come through this.
This is the genitalia of the woman.
Yes.
That it gives us access.
Mm-hmm.
So when you begin to understand Andihambi ndedwa as a song, it's not just a song. And this, unfortunately for Christianity, you don't know this, but your doctors know that. That's why they ask you, do you have a history of this? Do you have a history of this? Do you have a history of this? Because they actually understand that if there were sicknesses or diseases, abnormalities and challenges that were in your ancestral line, they could have filtered themselves.
So awami wedwa. For real.
Even the,
You are not alone.
even the hair falling off on your head. There is someone here who had that.
Tatomkhulu.
The nose that you have,
Yes.
there is someone. If we were lucky to resurrect your ancestors, maybe just 2-3 generations, and queue them over there, Otatomkhulu and their brothers and their uncles and their aunties, are you aware that we actually look at all of them and see pieces of yourself?
You know, we take pride in these things. I guess it's us being human. A friend of mine saw a picture of my daughter, and she was like, "Hey, ilampumlo yakwami good." You know, you hear it and you're like, yeah. You know,
For some of us,
assurance.
you can't miss this.
Okay.
You can't miss this. You can't miss this big blacksmith's hands.
Yes.
It's a trademark.
Yeah.
So that we when we say Andihambi ndedwa, we are saying for you to be here. That's why in Zulu we greet and say sawubona.
Oh, you are going to somewhere now.
Anditsho kuba
wanted to.
ndiyakubona. Ndithi sanibonani. Nibaninzi kaloku. Ndibulisa wena nezinyanya zokwenu nabogogo nabomkhulu nesende abuphuma kulona kwamama nakwababa. Ndibulisa bonke who have contributed. I greet all of them.
Why does this make us uncomfortable as Christians? Why don't we want to delve into who we are? Who we are is not who we are here. Who we are is where we come from and those that brought us here.
And we are here, we are Dali, not to be massaging colonial
You
things.
keep calling me Dali.
Dini lenjebo.
Dini Lohlanga. That's my name. Very deep.
Dini unibiza nesincesi man. Dini lohlanga.
Yes, sir.
Masibheka pha ku Matthew chapter 1. Matthew does not mix his words when he gives us the genealogy of the Messiah. I don't even want to go back into that history, which I could do laboriously. I want us to come to a man who is blind by the name of Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus comes to Yahshua, and he says, Jesus, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. I'm a theologian, so I'll step back a little bit. Why would you address him as a son of David? Why don't you just say, Jesus, have mercy on me? Why mention David? But you won't appreciate that until you go back and find out, who is David? What gene in David should be available in Jesus, so that Jesus must do for Bartimaeus what David did for Mephibosheth. Now, Mephibosheth is the grandson of Saul, who is the son of Jonathan, who fell on the back of an ant going to Lo-debar. And when David is in power, he says, is there anyone from the house of Saul that I can show mercy to? And they looked around and they found Mephibosheth, broken legs on his crutches. And the black book says, and he ate on the table of David all the rest of his lives. And when Bartimaeus calls on Jesus, he does not address him in his mental state in the present. He addresses him in the psychology of his genes, his ancestors. Akabizi uYesu, ubiza uDavida, ophakathi kukaYesu athi nyana kaDavida awundivele ufefe. Even if in your body you don't feel like doing it, but the ancestors that were here before you got here, they have done this thing. So dig in yourself and find healing for me. Now, when you don't understand why sometimes we behave the way we behave, we become good, we become compassionate, we become loving, we become kind, even when common sense does not allow. And sometimes even some of us, I wonder, how did I do that? Why did I do that? I didn't have to do that. But ikona lento engakuwe ethi ngabona umuntu ohlukumezekile, ubona umuntu ongaphathekanga kakuhle, and your ancestors were once in this space, and through ancestral memory you can connect to that pain. It evokes something in you and causes you to do something that at the end of the day we go, did I do that? Yes, you did it. But not that you thought about doing it, but because your system and your body is actually moving you.
You're making me emotional.
No, we are not just ourselves. As we behave as ourselves, we also be, even when it comes to marriages or relationships, what makes you find this person to be the right partner for you? It's only that we are not privileged with information. If you could look into them and find out what features do they have that speak to you. In some certain cases, you'd even be shocked if I can tell you on your boots that the person you are staying with, you met each other at another time, at another place, at another environment, at another timeline. And here you are again talking together as husband and wife in the present.
Where are you getting this? I want to call it knowledge, but because of my background, I keep going back to my background. I won't call it knowledge. Where are you getting this information? Because it's not information that I have understanding of, because of my upbringing in the Adventist church, which we both grew up in.
You are the one who is evoking me to talk, so I will do downloads for you, even in the present. I don't have to shake my head. I don't have to go that route. You can be spiritually connected without manifesting things. So yes, you will be able, when you sit down and you listen to your spirit and conscience, that your mind and spirit can actually lead you into the archive of information, which I'm now able to do, unfortunately.
Why is it unfortunate?
Because it sounds funny, unless your spirit picks it up, like you have. And then you notice, no, man, this is no longer ordinary data. This is not book information. This is...
You know, I'm going to put my father on the spot here. I've said this to him. When I was growing up, I think I was about around the age of 5. I don't know if I would call them hallucinations, but to also protect him amongst the believers. I think he only accepted Christ around 1986. But I remember, I think this incident of mine happened around 1985. I was taken to a woman, I would call her a so-called colored woman, in somewhere there where we live, a place called Breitbach. I remember the incident. I was quite young. And then I was given something like a pillow that I was supposed to wear here. this thing had a very strong camphor smell. You know camphor, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what camphor does. I've recently asked my dad about it. So like, what was that all about? Gestos abati waunomoy. Now, on my mother's side of the family, there was this old lady. About, they talk, but wayethadat. And lo mama wayengithanda. Busy. I won't say how she used to call me, but she used to call me. She used to put me on her lap. I don't know if it was that thing, but I always go back to that moment. And I know the intervention that my parents took is not an intervention that they would have probably taken today. And I always ask myself, why? And somehow after that incident, I don't remember ever having this thing. So I asked Tata explained it in such a way that no, Bunomoya, and that woman, I don't know, she could put together some things.
So this was a detailed sort of thing to protect you. Life is not as physical as we deem it to be. Life is dimensions of mental interactions, emotional interactions, physical interactions. But I think very little is known about the spiritual interactions. But as we close our eyes every night, we all move away from the mind. We all move away from the body, both Christian and non-Christian. We all move away from the emotion. We all move into spaces which are totally spiritual. Some people have eaten there and they've vomited this side. Some people have been beaten by snakes there and they've woken up with scars on their bodies. Some people have been initiated there and they've come back here as totally different creatures. Some people, by the way, have died there and they didn't come back in the morning. So when you begin to speak about issues of reality, the reality is not only what we are experiencing right now. There are more dimensions of reality, even beyond what we can process. And for parents in our traditional African space to be able to understand the realms of spiritual interactions and how to protect their children using some of those methodologies, only those who are more modern and may want to look at that as sarcasm can say it didn't work. But here you are as evidence that whatever they did worked. And as such, you would find people like Elisha. And I'm saying this, Dini, with a deep understanding of the misunderstood biblical text, where Elisha would tell Naaman, who is full of leprosy, and he wants to enter his house, no, you can't come into my house. Can you please go to the river there and bath yourself, and you'll be well. And the man, William Fuller. Now, if we start talking about telling a person to go to the river and bath, it's witchcraft. But even Jesus himself,
the mud, the
he
spit.
went to Jordan to be baptized by. So umlambo, ngokwenyane umlambo, is a place of healing. And Naaman goes there, gets healed, as if rightly put it. Jesus mixes saliva and dust and heals another person. And Paul himself takes off his handkerchief, gives other people. They walk around other people and they touch them. And the people were healed. Which part of this are we misunderstanding? When Moses could raise up his stick and the waters would part, you touch stones and waters would be spat out. How do we fail to understand Moses raises his hands and the armies, they win? How do we fail to understand a text that is full of such paranormal behavior? Paranormal behavior, which we call miracles. And yet in our own lives, we demonize all these things as if they were evil. When in fact our African culture, and I've said this and I'll say it again, Dini, the culture that understands these things are the honors of the text. If the black book says, your brother has died, go and sleep with his wife and please continue his generation. Find me a nation on the face of Africa that understands that culture. When you find them, they are the honors of the text.
Which culture is that?
Find me a culture that says, Hambu yopatala ilobol. Here's some cows and goats and money. Go and get a wife for my child. Find me that culture.
You've been around. I've only been in this country. Which cultures are these?
I'm taking you somewhere. You can tell where I'm taking you.
Let's go together.
If you find them, they are the owners of the text. So we cannot wait for white people who don't even have surnames and totems to tell us about the history of God. Akanasibongo, akanasithakazelo, ibhunda alinazo izinyanya. How can they tell us about the Lion of Judah when you don't even know who is Mgonyama?
I think we are moving somewhere. You've met one of my kids, my daughter here. She was watching one of the interviews we've had, and she says, "This man looks like Jesus." You know, I was so it it excited me when she saw Jesus.
Okay.
Can you say Yeshua?
You saw Jesus in me.
In you.
Wow, that's very interesting. But she's young, and what she sees and how she processes that, maybe, who knows? Maybe that's what she has dreamt about. Maybe that's what she has seen. Even in the midst of so much whitening of Jesus and the pictures of Jesus, for her to be able to look at the black face and identify a Messiah structure, it can only speak to the innocence of her spirit and what she actually may conceptualize as what the picture of her Jesus should look like.
I want to say let's wrap it up, because I've been keeping you here for long and I was preparing, and I really apologize for your time. But I can't let you go without speaking to one of the most powerful sermons I've heard from you. It was very recent. You were at Calvin SDA Church. You were talking around, I think it's Revelation 3 or Revelation 7. You were talking about ingoma yehuno, and in the sermon you also spoke of God's forgiving nature. You spoke of the song of Moses, which is the law, and then you spoke of the song of the Lamb, which is Christ's forgiving and redemptive nature. Do you remember the sermon?
What
am I taking you to a space that you'd rather not be in?
It's fine.
Can we tap into that?
I would get in there, and I think the passage gets me excited on chapter 7 when you start off from around verses 1 through to 9, where, and I saw the 144,000.
That's the one.
12,000 from the family of Simon, from the family of Judah, Naphtali, and the list goes on. And then towards verse 9, it says, "And I saw the great multitude from every kindred, from every language, from every tongue, and every nation." And that passage, in terms of its context, it's all in the apocalyptic. It's all in the parousia. It's in the life within the kingdom itself. And for the Black Book to deliberately go to lengths to mention nationalities, tribes, languages, and tongues, I found that quite profound. Because then I said, our identity on earth, if it is still recognizable within the kingdom, then why are we embarrassed of it when we are still this side? In other words, makutwa tribe, languages, and tongues. Should makutwa amaxhosa phakamani minyani amaxhosa azophakama axenze. Ungathi amatsonga phakamani amatsonga azophakama. Ungathi amakharanga phakama sizophakama kaloko. But why is it that here in the shadow of the parousia, these clans, languages, tribes, and cultural expressions are deemed as evil, when God in his righteousness post the second coming still will recognize us as languages, tribes, tongues, and people? And so that was the crux of the message. By the time we went on into Moses and the Lamb, it was now comparisons between the visible and the invisible, the law part, the grace part, the system, the institution, and the spiritual part. And the song of Moses and the Lamb becoming the song of we need a correct combination of leadership and sacrifice. And I think at an esoteric level, every leader, every father must have the Moses in them, and they must have the lamb in them. That's a man of steel and velvet, where order and grace, kiss each other constantly. You can't just be known as a hard father, and tolerate nonsense. No, when the toys are broken, the father must kneel down and go and repair the broken toys. And when big things must happen, when there's a noise outside, a father must take his stick and walk outside and protect. So it was a sermon, I think, coming from a very beautiful space where I was comparing the correct mixture of love and grace, power and understanding.
I think this is where we should end it. But as I did last time, I'm going to ask you to speak to the children of Africa, the different tribes, languages, kindred, shades of melanin, from the lightest to the darkest, like your hands. We are talking. We have been talking. It's time for us to move to a different space. We are now awake, Baba Mapong. Some of us are. But we still find ourselves in the same position. But we are concerned. We do not want our children to experience what we experienced.
We are Africans not because they call us Africans. We are Africans because we are born on this land. We have our history in this land. We have our future on this land. And until we know what killed our forefathers, it will kill us also. Knowledge of our history and our past will give us knowledge of our enemies in the present and be able to forge a new future for ourselves. The talking that you are talking about is happening because people have not yet understood what needs to be changed. We need to change the systems of governance. We need to change the curriculums of education. We need to change our agriculture and the quality of food that we are eating. We need to change our business and economics and own means of production. We need to change our entertainment and our sports. We need to change our health and our technology. Ultimately, we need to change our spirituality. These 7 steps that I've given you must be a daily routine. When you look at your plate of food, you must see colonization. When you look at the tablets that you are drinking, you must see colonization. When you are going to the bank, you must see colonization. And until another generation comes that understands how the colonial system was structured, we'll keep on fighting and exchanging hyenas with foxes and wondering why the sheep keep on disappearing. For Africa as a whole, we want to make a call, an awakening call, that let us look backwards and then we'll be able to see the future. That is Sankofa. For we are a great nation and we don't have to wait for other people to affirm us as to who we are. And part of our future slips in our past. Until we know who we are, they will define for us as to who we must become. And they will keep constantly make us footnotes on a narrative where we must be subjects. We need new political leaders. We need new bankers. We need new educators who can use their knowledge systems to rewrite a new narrative for the African continent. My name is Maponga J. Chigaramboko. Garamashambahuda. Shirana na wana wewanji makumbe mwana mwesende weshano. Zwe stedza sinogwigwa hana wana manga wale pedo antamba nazo. Mtambori paro ware. Time wakaramba kurime wakari mwana chemanewe. Wana mshamba ne gore. Wachere mangura na wapfuri bayo. Kwira miti ya soso echiwere. Panango kuba. Until we meet again, may the ancestors of the land, the spirit of the great continent of Africa, reside with you. Ase.